This ain't no echo chamber. We're unlocking any chain. The devil's advocate speaking, cutting through the fog. Let us explain. Yeah.
Pull up, turn the volume, let the bass ignite. Devil's advocates, that's the channel. Together we fight. They ain't here to echo what the masses preach. They challenge beliefs, putting truth within reach. Flip the script, reverse the lens, ain't no fear to provoke. Unpopular opinions, watch the stagnant water smoke. They dissect the narratives, poke holes in the facade. Sharpening the mind, ain't no truth they'll disregard.
This ain't no echo chamber. We're unlocking any chain. Devil's advocate speaking, cutting through the fog. Let us explain.
See the description hit hard, that's the blueprint, the code. Not everyone likes it, but that's the path they strode. Challenging beliefs, that's the mission, the aim. Flipping tables on conventional, fanning intellectual flame. Stepping opposing view, not for conflicts embrace, but to sharpen the blade of truth. Leave no logical trace of error or bias or thoughts that just float. They dig to the core, let the arguments bloat with substance and reason, not just empty retort. They building up thinkers, a mental fortress, a fort.
This ain't no echo chamber. We're unlocking any chain. Devil's advocate speaking, cutting through the fog. Let us explain.
You don't go by always being right, that's a stagnant pool. Growth comes from questioning, breaking every rigid rule. Honest conversations, bold questions, a few uncomfortable facts. They lay it all bare, no turning back, no looking back. Seeking clarity over debate, either way you win. They push you to understand where your own thoughts begin. So hit that subscribe button, let the knowledge unfurl. The devil's advocates, changing your whole world. Yeah, it might make you squirm, but that's how you transcend. Listen to the devil's advocates till the very end. Peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, do you want to know why I'm here today? It's not because I want to give you a pep talk or because I want to make you feel good about yourselves. No, I'm here to tell you the truth.
Hey, welcome to the show today. This is going to be mostly, by the way, this is going to be, unfortunately, for the person who said, I can't wait to see my first Luigi show. This is going to be Brian Koberger mostly today. I did try to put that on the thumbnail. The sound is good. Thank you, Kimberly, for letting me know right away. I am working, by the way. I have realized that I have some work to do on my channel to get better. One of which is you guys never know what the hell I'm going to talk about from day to day. I don't know what the hell I'm going to talk about from day to day. I am now working more closely with a group called the Minions, my own little personal minions who are helping me become a better YouTuber, a better organized YouTuber. And so we are working on a format in which you can count on what days of the week I'm going to talk about certain things. I'll have a free floating day or two in there for whatever happens to be the hot topic in case court documents drop or whatever. But I want you to rely on a certain day of the week will be Luigi, a certain day of the week will be Long Island serial killer Rex Heuermann, a certain day of the week will be Idaho 4, and then a couple in between will be some floaters of whatever's hot for the week. But I want you to get some structure going, because that's one of the things that I need to work on, is getting some structure instead of you all being confused about what the hell's going on. So if you're here for Luigi Mangione, I apologize. This is not going to be Luigi Mangione today. It's going to be Idaho 4 and the crime scene photos discussion. Now, before we get too far, please pay attention to this. I'm going to tell you right now, don't check out because it's crime scene photos. I'm not going to show you anything graphic or horrific. In fact, that's the biggest problem with this whole set of crime scene photos so far. There's nothing to show you, but I'm going to show it to you anyways. I'm going to show you a whole lot of shit. I'm going to show you a whole lot of fucking nothing, because it's what we got at the moment. Now, keep in mind, it's not entirely that they didn't release nothing. Now, I want you to understand this nuance. The people who are releasing the photos, first of all, news agencies were the first to ask for those documents, those crime scene photos with blood and gore and graphic and all that's with that, right? They are, of course, not going to release that to the public. So what they'll tell you is, hey, we got 200 and something photos. We're going to show you the ones that look like a pussycat. I'm going to show you the ones that look like a pussycat. I have requested the full file package that the media has requested. Because I'm not an Idaho resident, I have to wait a little bit longer. If I was in Idaho, they would provide those photos to me, presumably, and the 911 calls and all the stuff I've asked, body worn camera, all the shit that I've requested. They should reply to that within 3 days. Here's the good news, because I like to educate people on how things work. Once a media outlet has established that stuff and they've done all the work, right? The first person to the game often has to pay for it. So the first media company that says, I want you to give me all of the body worn camera. I want to have all the photos of the bodies. I want to see autopsy stuff. I want to see all of this stuff. The first person that does that often has to pay for some bit of presentation, or might have to pay for it. Everybody after that doesn't have to pay, because it's already been paid for. The prep work has been paid for. So here's the good news. The prep work has been paid for, and those now who are coming along can get something faster because the legwork has been done. Now, I also have requested from Moscow Police Department to drive down to their office and pick it up in person. So hopefully they'll give me that option. I've requested it in email. That could take up to 21 days, they say, for me to get the package in email. I've also said, hey, I'll drive down there this afternoon and pick it up if you want me to pay for a thumb drive or something like that to put it on, or thumb drives, or if it's 7 terabytes of information, I'll bring a freaking hard drive. Whatever the case may be, I'm coming there to your office to pick it up if you'll let me. That might be a bad idea if they know who I am. Anyways, not true. I don't have a hatred toward NPD. I would say that we're on the same side, even if they don't look at it that way. So I've requested that. By the way, if you're familiar, because I do like to share things with people, this is the website for doing such a thing. This is ci.moscow.idaho.us. There's a form here called Form Center where you can request Moscow Police Department public records. Oh, I'm not showing you. How about I show you what the hell I'm talking about? Let me remove this. Let me put this to stage. There we go. There we go. All right. So there's the Idaho website, City of Moscow, Idaho. They've got a form center. This is where you can request Moscow Police Department public records request. You can fill out your information. You can ask for things like, I want to pick it up on email. I want to get it in mail. I want to get it in person. I want police reports. Technically, you should have the case number. I didn't actually do that the first time, so maybe I just screwed myself. I'll do that after the show. Point being is that you can go for the incident reports, witness statements, photographs. You can look for video recordings, audio recordings, 911 calls, police recording, radio traffic. You can type in your request of what you want. I want fucking everything. I want fucking everything. Give it to me all. I want it all. That's what I've requested. You can put in your email address and you can submit. When you do so, if you checked up here on the box that says, I'm an Idaho resident, are you a resident of the state of Idaho, yes or no? I have to say no. If you say no, they're like, well, I just want to let you know, if you're in Idaho, we have to get it to you faster. If you're outside of Idaho, we don't have to get it to you so fast. However, I also said, I will come down and pick that shit up in person. Thank you very much. Fiji, thank you for saying hi. Hello, how are you? Kimberly in the house, thank you for so much. They are not charging money for this. Again, because the first person who basically asked for this, sometimes the first person I think has to pay. Everybody else, due to Freedom of Information Act, that legwork has been done, it's been paid for. We can get copies of it for free, especially if it's a public interest thing. So it's allowed to do that. So there you go. Now, what I want to talk about before we get into the crime scene photos today is why, Devil's Advocates, are you victimizing these fucking families still? Why are you doing this? That's what I would hear rhetorically. That lives in my head all day long. You people asking me, and I know it's not you because if you're on this channel, you don't ask me that. Other people will say, oh my God, Devil's Advocates, quit talking about it. This is over. Let the families rest. Well, let's start with our favorite gentleman, Steve Goncalves. Steve Goncalves, I want to focus on some things that Steve Goncalves said, and I want to break down what I think it means. This is an important distinction. Steve Goncalves, Kaylee Goncalves' father says the public 100% deserves to know the details. Listen to this. Steve Goncalves, there he is. Steve Goncalves, Kaylee Goncalves' father says the public 100% deserves to know the details. You know how we are going to get the details? Looking at the crime scene photos ourselves. All right. So I realize a lot of people have problems with Steve Goncalves, and what he says one minute may not be this thing that he says the other minute. I still, to this day, I still cut Steve a little slack in the position that he's in. I think Steve was used. I think Steve was manipulated by and I don't think it's because he's dumb. I think he trusted people too much. And I think a lot of his behavior can be explained by that. But if not, if he's just off the rails, then so be it. But I want to highlight something. First of all, Steve believes that the public should 100% deserve to know the details, right? And again, you can't know the details if you don't actually look at the crime scene photos. Let's continue. I want to break it down and tell you. I had this highlighted, by the way. I had all this highlighted, and for some reason, my highlighter went away. As soon as I highlighted everything, it all went away, and I wasted all my time highlighting it. So I'm just going to have to read it on the fly. Steve Goncalves, the father of the murdered victims, says insisted that the public deserves to know the details of the plea deal and more. And listen, I think the public should demand the truth 100%. Yes, Steve, I agree with you. The public should demand answers 100%, not this shit show embarrassment of a plea deal. And after 2.5 years, when you finally say he's admitted to it, we've accepted his plea. Now, can you tell us what happened? Nah, we can't tell you what happened. Sorry. You can go flying F yourself or take a long walk on a short pier, whatever the hell you want for your euphemism. Go screw yourself, because again, after all this time, the public deserves to know. And even Steve says the public deserves to know this shit show needs to be over. And the only way it's going to be over is freaking full disclosure. Let us take a look. Now here, I should tell you this. They should be freaking terrified. They, meaning the prosecution, should be terrified, because the internet sleuths, what I've been watching already, you guys are tearing them a new ass. And I don't mean that disrespectfully to say law enforcement, they're getting their ass torn or whatever. But what I'm saying is, internet sleuths catch shit that even the detectives aren't catching. I'm watching internet sleuths look at the crime scene photos and look at the time on the oven, zooming in and going, what time does the oven say on the, are you fucking kidding me? You guys are amazing. You internet sleuths break everything down. What's on the table over here? Is that and you guys are micro diving into these photos. I have to wonder at the end of the day, when they had already decided Bryan Kohberger was the person who was guilty, did they put as much detail and attention to detail as the internet community? And you guys are going to break this shit wide open, because you guys are looking for shit that I don't think they even looked at, and you're catching shit that they didn't look at. Oh my God, the buzz on the internet right now about manipulated body-worn camera footage, time footages that have been manipulated, showing not just an hour difference, like some kind of, like, maybe you could explain by daylight savings times, an hour and 7 minutes. Why the extra fucking 7 minutes? Why do we have a missing 7 minutes, an hour and 7 minutes? What's going on? And then you find out that there's reasons. There's things that are being hidden. If you manipulate the body-worn camera footages or a ring footage or whatever the case may be, if you manipulate footage by an hour and 7 minutes, you can avoid something. What the hell? And you internet people, holy shit. Like, I'm just along for the ride. I'm just a mouthpiece. And as I see these things, I'm going to share with you the stuff that I'm willing to put some weight behind. All right. So, by the way, I also want to tell you before we get too far, because Robin's talking about this. Let me put it on screen. That's not Robin's. That's Robin's. Check out DA's Facebook page for those who aren't in Discord. By the way, for the Discord, we have a new channel. And again, you will not see any graphic details tonight. So relax. By the way, I'm thinking about doing the After Dark party, which is me having a few drinks and getting with you in Discord. I've got a Discord server. That Discord server, by the way, is getting bigger, it's getting more structured, and it's getting more active. I recommend, if you don't know about Discord, or if you haven't gotten a Discord, get into frickin' Discord, because one of the things, for example, we did today is we created a new channel. It's private and by invite only, but anybody who asks can get there. What is the purpose? It is going to be graphic crime scene photos. As those photos come out, and some of them we assume those crime scene photos are going to be graphic, and they're going to be pretty hard to look at. So we don't want anybody accidentally getting a pop-up saying, hey, here's a notification. Somebody just posted this to his server. Click on it and have you see something that you can never unsee, right? So That is an invite only channel. All you have to do is get into my Discord server and say, hey, can I get access to the graphic crime scene photo folder? And yes, you can. And there's discussions in there as we break down horrific things that aren't coming yet because they haven't shown us anything, because again, they treat the public like we're little pansies and can't handle. We don't want you to be disturbed, so we're just not going to show you. Well, how about you just freaking let me be a freaking adult? How about some adulting time? That'd be nice. Now, let's get into Steve Goncalves and his little bit of back and forth about what he does and he doesn't want to see, and what the public should and shouldn't see, and why. Because I want to cover all of that before I start showing you crime scene photos, just so that you know I have some kind of stamp of approval in a way from even a family member that's involved with this, right? All right, so here we go. The public should demand 100% truth. Sometimes the courtroom doesn't realize that there is no courtroom without victims, and they need to represent them, people and the community. Goncalves said during an interview with News Nation's Banfield. I know it's Banfield, but the D got cut off. Look at that. It looks like Banfellow when you highlight it. The Banfellow. Anyways, on Wednesday, August 6th. You know the community has the right to know that there are, listen to this. Steve Goncalves says, the public has the right to, the community has the right to know that they're arresting the right people and the punishment is correct. I about lost my shit. Steve Goncalves, are you telling us even to this day you want to make sure that the public knows they got the right guy? Because are you not sure they got the right guy? I swear to God, if you listen to Steve Goncalves over the years, you'll find times when he's not sure he's the right guy. He's not sure he's the only guy. He's not sure. And then later on, he's like, I'm 100% convinced they got the right guy. And yet here we are just a day or so ago where Steve says the community has the right to know that they're arresting the right guy, and listen to this, the right people. Now, granted, he could just be in general talking about crime. In general, we have the right to know that you're getting the right people. Or is he saying in this crime, make sure you get the right people? That would be the shit. I'm going to take it that Steve Goncalves is just saying, in general, the community should know that you're arresting the right people. Doesn't mean that there's more than one people involved in this situation, but it's interesting wording. And Steve says the public needs to know that they got the right guy and that the punishment's correct. All right, so let's continue on. That's just a recap of the murders. Speaking in depth about the case on Banfield, Goncalves' suggestion that the parents of the murdered victims were not necessarily all on the same page as the prosecutors. This is important. Again, the families were treated differently and what they could handle. And I'm sorry, by the way, that I'm not getting to comments right now, because now that I'm going to do a lot of reading, I'm not going to see comments. So please, please, please feel free to fire back and forth and have my mods help out and moderate the channel. But I got to focus on the reading over here, over there, and I will get back to comments when we get to it. All right. I think that, the prosecution here purposely hid the facts of what happened to these kids. So this is a family member telling you the prosecution hid from the families what happened to their own children. Why in ever loving God's name can you not be straight even with the fucking families involved in it? I understand if you don't want the media out there. I understand if you don't want my ass ranting about it. I understand if you think I'm full of shit. But tell the families what happened. Are you kidding me? Tell the families what happened. And yet, Steve will indicate that they hid stuff from the families for over 2.5 years. What? None of this. The families should have been prepared for 2.5 years for what's going to happen today, which is that the crime scene photos are coming out. The family shouldn't be. The family should not be seeing those photos for the first time with the rest of us. I hope to God the family's already seen the photos and that this is not shock value for them because they've already seen it. I will lose my shit if you're telling me the family hasn't even seen the photos. Let's go on. All right. The prosecution purposely hid the facts of what happened to these kids to try to get the parents to be in silos and not unite and force the prosecutors to do the right thing. Listen to this. He thinks they kept the families separated in the dark about what happened because if they're in the dark about what happened, they won't all rise up and say, fuck, what the hell with this case? Tell us more. So they kept everybody in the dark, doing shit like they did to Steve Goncalves, in my opinion, and said to Steve, trust us, man, trust us. We know what happened in this case. We know what happened. You gotta let the process take. I know. I've worked with these people. I've worked with these people indirectly. I know how it works. They'll tell you this all the time. Trust us. Let the process take its place, man. We've got you. And then you get to the end and they're like, hey, sorry, we fucked you. We should have given you some Vaseline. We totally lied to you. We fucked you for 2.5 years. Hope that you're okay with that. Anyways, sorry, I'm vulgar. I am vulgar sometimes. And when I'm angry, I get really vulgar. So there it is. I apologize. Here we go. I don't want to apologize as much. People tell me, stop apologizing so much. I'm vulgar. You're just going to have to deal with it. Find another channel if you don't like that shit. All right. So he says that the parents were kept in silos so that they wouldn't rise up and basically demand for something else and do the right thing and force the prosecution to have a capital case. They never had that, Steve says. That's why they didn't tell us what really happened to our kids. Are you kidding me, Steve? They didn't tell you what happened to your daughter? They didn't tell the families what happened to their children? What the frick is wrong with this case? Why can't you tell people? It's a simple thing, remember? It's a simple thing. An incel who couldn't get laid decided to go be obsessed with one girl and had to wipe out the entire house and then randomly leave a couple people behind. It's real simple. Explain to them what happened. That's all you got to do. So how do you tell me that you can't tell the family what happened? It's so simple, right? Your case is simple. They hid that from us because they knew that could be a rally. I think it's supposed to be a rallying cry. I don't know, a rallying cry for all the parents to get on the same page. Maybe I don't know the word riling. I thought I have a pretty good vocabulary, but maybe I'm struggling with that one. Anyways, prosecutor Bill Thompson previously defended striking a plea deal that spared Kohberger from potential death penalty by telling the Idaho Statesman in July that he delivered some immediate finality, which wouldn't have happened had we gone through with the trial. So Bill Thompson is defending, hey, look, this is a slam dunk case. We got this guy dead to rights. There's no question anybody else did this. This is the right guy, and it's the most heinous crime I've ever seen in my entire 30-year career. Never seen anything worse. But you know what? We're going to go ahead and just accept a plea deal because we want some finality for everybody and we want to be able to move on. Okay, so what case would have been deserving of the death penalty? Anyways, Judge Stephen Hippler recently issued an order to confirm that he would examine, this is huge. Judge Stephen Hippler recently issued an order confirming that he would examine requests to unseal certain evidence, including crime scene photos, which we're now getting, and the defense team's list of alternative perpetrators. Ooh, buddy. Ooh, buddy. Is that true? Is Stephen Hippler going to allow, for fuck's, are you going to allow us to finally find out who Ann Taylor's list of alternative suspects were? Good for you, sir. Good for you for allowing us to finally hear, because you weren't going to allow, no one in America, sorry, I just yelled in the microphone. You need to turn me down. I'm sorry, I'm pissed off. No one in America was going to be allowed to hear what the alternative suspects were in court. No jury was going to be allowed to hear the alternative suspects in trial. Why? Because that would lead to reasonable doubt, and somebody might not convict Kohberger if they thought somebody else had a better motive or a better opportunity. That's why we didn't have a trial. That's why Hippler was never going to allow alternative suspects to be given to a jury, because they were afraid that if the jury saw that there was other people with motives and other people with better opportunities and stories that make more sense than the guy who can't get laid, then there might have been a mistrial. And so for the sake of justice, we just want to allow you to talk about alternative suspects. But for the love of God, maybe Hippler is going to allow us now to find out who the alternative suspects that Ann Taylor had in mind. So great for him. Fantastic. Now that it's over and you got your conviction and nobody can fucking do anything about it. Well, that's not technically true. If you believe that Nancy Grace is talking about, Nancy Grace says that Kohberger is preparing an appeal. Whoo! I don't believe a fucking word that comes out of Nancy Grace's mouth, by the way. And I got to cut down on the number of F-bombs, or YouTube's never going to let me monetize shit. But the point being is that Nancy Grace, running her mouth, said Kohberger is whining about how he didn't get a fair trial and is preparing an appeal. If that happens, game on, people. That'll change the whole thing. Now, I don't know that I believe a thing out of her mouth, because my wife, unfortunately, had to run her ass, her meaning Nancy Grace, had to run her ass's video in the background and me listening to that, making shit up, Nancy Grace making shit up the entire time, including, oh my God. When you realize that people like Ryan Kohberger, they're into smelling women's panties, and because that wasn't enough for him, he had to go a step further. So now we got Kohberger as a panty sniffer? Where the hell you just made that shit up? You literally just made that shit up, and she did that all night long. Well, you have to realize this was a sexually motivated crime. Bill Thompson got up there like 12 times. We want to make sure you understand there is no sexual motivation in this crime. It was sexually motivated. He was kind of a panty sniffer, but it wasn't enough for him. He needed to take it to the next level. Oh my God. Flush all of Nancy Grace's crap down the toilet. Now, unfortunately, I had to listen because my wife's like, oh my God, I can't stop listening to her. That's why she makes the money, because people can't stop listening to a train wreck. And one of the train wreck things she says is Brian Koberger's upset about his trial and he's going to appeal. He's filing an appeal. At the end, she says, I don't see how he wouldn't file an appeal, so I'm sure he will be. That's her justification. I think he's filing an appeal. First, it was Brian Koberger is filing an appeal, so everybody got excited. Brian Koberger's filing an appeal. Did you hear it? Nancy Grace said he's filing an appeal. And then when you get done with it, her logic is, I don't see why he wouldn't, so I'm sure he is. Oh, so in other words, you don't know that he's filing an appeal, and you don't know that he sniffs panties, and you don't know that he's sexually motivated, but you're just going to say it because it gets you views. Am I still talking about Steve Goncalves or Nancy Grace? Still talking about Steve Goncalves. All right. So after consulting with the defense and prosecutors. So yeah, Stephen Hippler agreed that he's going to allow the list of alternate perpetrators to be submitted or to revealed to the public. We're going to get to see who Ann Taylor had. She had 4 people. 3 of Ann Taylor's alternative suspects had access to the house and knew the layout of the house. Hippler said, that is ridiculous. You cannot bring those people in because the killer drove to the house in a white Elantra. Why would a person who lives next door need to drive a white Elantra to the crime scene? Therefore, all 3 of those suspects are ruled out and inadmissible. You can't bring that shit in because we know the killer arrived in a car. You have got to be the worst at logic I've ever seen. I don't know. I don't want to be mean to Hippler. I don't know him on a personal level, but that's the shittiest, because we know the killer came in a car. It couldn't have been anybody that lived next door. You mean there couldn't have been an accomplice at the minimum? Maybe a car did arrive to help out with the murders. Maybe a car arrived to clean up the crime scene afterwards. Maybe it wasn't the person who drove the car that actually did the killing. Maybe they were just the cleanup person. Maybe they were just the driver. Maybe they were taking evidence away from the scene. Maybe somebody else walked next door. Oh, we know he can't walk next door because the killer arrived in a car. Fuck. That guy was presiding over the case. That guy was presiding over the case. All right. So, reacting to the order, Goncalves told the Banfield that the victims' families previously objected to gruesome crime scene imagery being unsealed. So, previously indicates that Steve Goncalves has softened his take, in my opinion. He's like, we originally did not want brutal photos of our children murdered and hacked up, and so therefore previously we didn't want to see this, which indicates to me Steve Goncalves is okay with it. So every one of you out there who want to shame me and call me an asshole for sharing with you my interpretation or my opinions of the crime scene photos can go, again, take a very long walk off of a short pier. Because at the end of the day, even Steve Goncalves is saying, you know what, ultimately, they think that people need, the devil is in the details. I just saw that shit pop up. Oh my God, I love that shit. Anyways, the devil's in the details. And so Steve Goncalves is saying, people deserve to know exactly what happened. And if that means people are going to, and now I'm interpreting this part, Steve didn't say this verbatim. If that means that we have to look at some horrendous photos that some people can't unsee, then so be it. Because we want to know what really happened. Now, I believe all the families have let that be known to the prosecution team. That's not anything that we were interested in, and we've been worried that we would see those leaked images at any time when you had certain stories and certain things been leaked since the very beginning. So what he's basically saying, and I'm running it through my interpretation, what he's basically saying is nobody in the family wanted to wake up one day and see a picture of their child brutally murdered on TV or on the internet with no warning that shit was coming. They were terrified that any day they were going to wake up and it's going to be all over the news, a picture of their child mutilated. That was a fear of theirs previously. But at this point, we want the things to come out. Goncalves encouraged anyone seeking full access to the Idaho murder evidence. That's myself. I'm seeking full access. Many of us are seeking full access. He wants the people to realize, he encourages, he's not demanding, he encourages that anyone who's seeking full access to all of the things should basically consider how the impact of unsealing could impact those touched by the horrific crime. Yes, Steve, and families. Steve Goncalves, Mogan's family, Kernodle's family, Chapin's family. Yes, I will be respectful. In my view, I will be respectful of our investigation. But we want to know what happened to your family. And I would respectfully ask you, families, that if you're coming across my station, that you don't watch. You don't watch. Because we're trying to figure out what happened. And I realize it'll be difficult for you. So out of respect for you, I'm going to put my shit behind stuff. That's why I've got a channel on my Discord channel where you have to ask to be there. If you're in the family, you need to ask me to see what I'm talking about. You need to ask me. I won't just put it in your face and go, hey, look, I'm going to display your family all over the internet. I won't do that to you. That's my pledge to you. I'm not going to do that to you. You need to ask me if you want to see that. And if you don't want to see that, here's the great thing. You won't accidentally see it from me. All right. You don't get those that these are our children. We're not settling for that type of thing. And I think it encourages. You got a whole show here about some people that are doing some terrible things to people. That's one thing that I think we show a little bit too much of, and I hope that we can give these kids some dignity. Yes, I understand. Steve Goncalves is talking about there are some horrific YouTubers, there's some horrific TikTokers, there's some horrific people who are just looking for 15 minutes of fame and will do whatever, and they don't give a fuck. They don't give a flying F what happens to the families. They're there to make news. They're there to make sensationalism. I'm not going to do that. That's my pledge to you. I'm going to be careful with the way I do that. That's why I'm telling you before we get into the night, I am not showing you anything today in the crime scene photos that's going to be very, very difficult. One photo that I'm going to show you is going to have a significant amount of blood, not horrendous amount of blood, and there's no bodies. You're not going to see any bodies. So I'm just letting you know right now, in case you're getting a little uneasy, I'm not going to show you bodies, and I'm only going to show you one photo or so that has a significant amount of blood because they didn't show us anything yet. Now later, when we get the actual crime scene photos, and I believe that we will get them, there will be some horrific images. I will not show that on a public forum like this, and I will not do it in a way where somebody could accidentally see it. You will have to ask for that shit. All right, so he later acknowledged that prosecutors could have easily done better than this. The prosecutors could have done better. This trickle effect, I mean, this case is over, so let it out. That's Steve Goncalves. The case is over. Fucking let it out. Let us know what happened. The case is over. Stand by what your decisions are, and the information can come out now. That's what Steve Goncalves is saying. The information can come out now. So let us know. Goncalves insisted that the whole ordeal had been absolute torture to them and to the victims' families, especially as they are now facing even more pain over the evidence potentially being unsealed. Yes, it's going to be difficult for the families. I asked them to check out for a little bit. You've been on this case already. You should, by the way, already know what happened. If you don't, shame on the fucking prosecution and everybody that kept you in the dark. Go beat their ass while we take care of our investigation. And respectfully, we'll tell you what we find out without having to put it in your face. So there you go. As for the prosecutor Thompson's recent series of interviews justifying Kohberger's plea deal, Goncalves complained. Steve Goncalves wants zero shit to do with Thompson. Listen to this. As for the prosecutor, Thompson's recent series of interviews justifying their plea deal with Kohberger, here's Goncalves' response. I prefer that he just be quiet. Bill Thompson, shut the fuck up, is what he says. I prefer you be quiet. I mean, we want to hear from the officers. We want to hear from the people who actually did their job. We don't want to hear about it. We hear a guy who, called into work, talked to his coworkers one day and said, hey, let's make a deal. Let's be done. I don't feel like working. Do you feel like working? That's Steve Goncalves' opinion of Bill Thompson and the prosecution team. Hey, man, it's freaking summer. We got golfing to do. You want to just end this case right now? Let's just take a plea deal and get out of here and go home. You guys want to keep working on this? I don't want to keep working on this. He's lazy. So they came up with a plea deal and they went home. They took their ball. Bill Thompson said, screw you guys, I'm going home. And he took his ball and he went home. And they got their summers back. Steve Goncalves, they took the plea deal, they went home, and they got their summer back. So that's not who we think we should be talking to. Bill Thompson can go pack sand, according to Steve Goncalves. We should be talking to the FBI and those prosecutors and the boots and the men and the women who actually helped put the case together. So there you go. There's my defense of myself, because sometimes I still feel like I do that. Not the Cartman. Yeah, my Cartman interpretation was horrible, but I'm so glad that you understood that was a Cartman reference. Screw you guys, I'm going home. All right, let's look at one more thing about Steve Goncalves again, because it's Steve, and he makes news. And then we'll get into the crime scene photos, and then we'll get into questions and answer. Brian Kohberger likely in the victim's home before the murders, according to the prosecutor. There is no evidence that Brian Kohberger knew any of the girls. There's no evidence Brian Kohberger was ever in the house. In fact, on the stand, Bill Thompson said, we can't place Brian Kohberger inside the house. We can only place his phone near the house. Near the house. We can't place him in the house. Even despite you having DNA, you said on the stand, we can't place Brian Kohberger in the house. But now, and if you listen to Oh my God. Oh my God. I was watching some news report about I'm throwing in the towel. I just threw in the white towel. Fuck you guys. Okay, I'm sorry. I just watched a guy talk, as we now have been told by the prosecutor, Bill Thompson, I want you guys to be clear, there's no evidence whatsoever of a sexual motivation in the crime, and I want to be clear about that. Now everybody's coming in. Brian Koberger was sexually motivated. I think, for example, I saw a photo of the crime scene now that's being released, and there's a cinder block outside the window, and I realized, you know what? I bet you Brian Koberger sat on that cinder block staring at the girls and watching them for some time. Are you kidding me? You just made that shit up. Just like he sniffed panties, but it wasn't enough for him. He had to go further. You guys are just literally, it's like, it doesn't throw the playbook out. You know why? Because there's never going to be a trial and you can't be called on your bullshit. So now you can say whatever you want. And now you can keep telling everybody over and over again, it was sexually motivated. Even when the prosecution said there's no sexual motivation whatsoever, you now get to say, oh yeah, he was totally all over those girls. He sat on a cinder block outside their windows and stared at them. Didn't fucking happen. No, there's no evidence of that whatsoever, sir. But you can say it. Nancy Grace and her little co-host, whoever came on, it was somebody with Nancy Grace. Oh yeah, I'm sure that, he's got to have trophies of these girls. So I'm sure that, he took panties but he had to go further. Really? Oh, and here's another one. How about Brian Koberger was in the house multiple times and had befriended Murphy so that Murphy wouldn't bark. That's the new one. That shit came out on Nancy Grace. I wanted to rip the phone out of my wife's hand and throw it in the trash and say, you just lost your phone because your phone's fucking broken. Your phone's retarded. Did you hear that shit, Brian? So Brian Koberger went into the house repeatedly now, leaving no DNA at the house, mind you, leaving no DNA there at the house, and became friends with Murphy, so that Murphy wouldn't bark the night that he would go by and kill him. Are you kidding me? Do you realize my own dogs bark at my ass? If I don't know, my own dogs bark at my ass. So Brian Koberger, he must be he's the dog whisperer. Caesar, whatever his fucking Milan, who was it? Caesar that did the dog whisperer, got nothing on Koberger. He is the fucking dog whisperer. He took Murphy and turned it into a pacified little pussy so he could come and manipulate that dog to shit. And then came in and did the murders because that way the dog wouldn't bark at him. Where do they make that shit up? When I started this, I said I don't have a rant today. I was wrong. All right. The lead prosecutor handling Brian Koberger's case said that he believes the convicted killer was likely in the Idaho home of the victims before November of 2022. When did we hear this? I didn't hear Bill Thompson saying this. We can't place Brian Koberger in the house, okay? But the lead prosecutor handling the Koberger case says he believes the convicted killer was likely in the home of his victims before the November 2022 murders. So how many times can the same man go into that house and not leave DNA, sir? I just want to know, how many times do you think he can walk into that house and not leave DNA? Can he pet Murphy as he's training him in the dog whisperer shit that I just talked about? Can he pet Murphy and feed him little snacks, training the dog while also not leaving his DNA behind? At what point can that person continue to go in a house and not, by the way, as you shed 30 to 40,000 skin cells every freaking minute of your life, you're shedding 30 to 40,000 skin cells. He doesn't leave any DNA at the house because he's remember, he's a criminal mastermind. He knows how to hide his tracks, but he doesn't know how to leave his cell phone at home or his car at home when he goes and commits a murder. But anyways, Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson told 48 Hours that Koberger's movements and apparent familiarity with the home led to that belief. You know why? Listen to the in between the words. Whoever killed these kids had to have known that house. I'm losing my mind with Bill. I'm losing my mind with the double speak on this freaking case. Listen to this. We're not sure that Brian Koberger ever knew those girls, and we're not sure that Brian Koberger didn't literally pick that house the night of the murders and just decided randomly to pick it. That came out of the prosecution's mouth. We're not sure he didn't just randomly pick that house that night and had no association with the house. That's theory number one. 2 seconds later, we're pretty sure he had to have been familiar with the layout of the house because only somebody familiar with the layout of the house would know where he's going. Which one is it, you mother? Which one is it? You cannot have it. Why is it that you get to have it both ways? You call me a jerk because you think I'm coming and reaching for speculation and I'm just coming up with shit out of my ass. And then you tell me on the one hand that he never had been to the house. He may have just randomly picked it that night. And then later on say, well, he had to have been there multiple times training your dog like Caesar Milan, the fucking dog whisperer. I don't even understand what alternate universe am I living in right now? The layout of the house was unique and a little bit confusing, Thompson told the outlet. Koberger had entered the house. Koberger had entered the house shared by the students through a sliding glass door in the back of the thing. The move seems to have been from someone who knew its placement. Koberger had been to the house before. He knew its placement. He knew the location. later on, we're not entirely sure Brian Koberger ever knew the girls, and they didn't even, like, maybe he just picked that house that night for no random reason. Which one is it, you son of a... Thompson said that Koberger's cell phone records show that he was official prosecution statements on the stand. There's no evidence of stalking whatsoever. Ann Taylor, could you please repeat that? Did you say that there's no evidence of stalking? Yes, we found no evidence of stalking whatsoever. He wasn't stalking the girls. Now, come now after the plea deal, where nobody gets to have a trial and nobody can correct it, Bill Thompson suddenly, well, we know from his cell phone records that he was stalking the neighborhood. You mother... Those records put the convicted murderer near the home after 10 p.m. Oh my God, he's near the home after 10 p.m. Everyone in Moscow, Idaho is near the home. It's a small place. It's a tiny town. Everyone in Moscow, shit, people in Pullman, Washington are near Moscow, Idaho's house. It's all a relative term, near. Pullman is near Washington, near Moscow. I can't even say it, I'm so mad. Pullman is near Moscow. So it's he was near the home. Yeah, no shit. So was anybody in Moscow was near the home. Thompson believes that Koberger may have broken into the victim's home during one of those trips. We're not sure that Brian Koberger didn't just pick that house randomly. Well, now we're pretty sure that he's broken into the house before and had been there and he knew the layout. Story one. Yeah, it's totally doable that one person can kill 4 people on 2 floors in a house they've never been into in that amount of time later on. Somebody like this would have had to have been familiar with the floor plan. So we believe that he knew the floor plan already. I'm just checking out. You can go. Yeah. I don't even know why I'm still giving you credence. I don't even know why I'm reading your shit other than you're an official and I like to tear down the officials. The investigators never uncovered any evidence that would definitively prove that, but so I'm convinced that Brian Koberger has been in that house before. Now the investigators couldn't prove that, but I think it's a legitimate point. Good for you. You know why you can say that? Because there's no trial, and your bullshit story will never be questioned because there's never going to be a trial, unless Nancy Grace is true and Koberger is appealing this. I think someone even said, Nancy said that Koberger has filed the appeal. I don't believe a word coming out of her mouth, so don't get excited. Koberger accepted the plea deal weeks before he got sent to trial. Okay, the deal took the death penalty off the table. That's it. That's it for that. Now, let's get into crime scene photos. For those of you who don't want to see anything potentially disturbing, you may already be seeing it on the screen. I'm going to blow these photos up and I'm going to go through it. I'm going to do a few minutes of going through the photos, showing you what they don't fucking show, pardon my French. And then we're going to talk about questions and answers where I can catch up with you guys and calm the hell down and maybe go have a drink and ease myself into the weekend. I hope that you guys will have a good weekend as well. All right. This particular drive was sent to me. Again, 200 and something photos have been released to the press, at least some of the press. These are only the photos that the press, I believe, want you to see, meaning they think you are not capable of seeing this kind of shit. I'm intending, if Moscow police says I can come pick it up, I'll go pick that shit up today. I promise you, I will pick it up today. So, I will get the photos that they won't let you see, but you'll have to ask for it because I'm not going to put it up here on YouTube where everybody can see it. You'll have to ask for it. All right, so here we go. Photo number 1 that is on this. I'm just going to go through this thing. This, I believe, is supposed to be Xana's room, and it's supposed to be potentially Ethan Chapin blurred out on the bed. I think Ethan Chapin at 6'4" or whatever the hell he is, I don't know how you fit him on that bed. In addition, I don't see a whole lot of blood. There is, in a later picture, I will tell you, a bit of blood on this blanket and blood over here on the wall if you're looking at my mouse. So, but is that a human being in that image? I don't know. And it's not a big deal. I'm not making a big deal about this. I'm just going to say what I want you to pay attention to is the utter lack of amount of blood. These people had arterial wounds, arterial spray, not to be super graphic. Legs were severed, arteries were severed, carved up his legs was one of the words. If the person laying on that bed, if, for example, that was... Let's say that it was Ethan Chapin. If his legs had been carved up in the arteries, do you think that the mattress sheet would look like that? Pristine mattress sheet? That would be soaked. So what's going on here? Now, some of you have said, here's a picture of the sliding glass door that was open. Some have said, well, they're full of shit with the footprints in the snow. There was no snow. Here's a photo, supposedly taken of the day of the crimes. Look at the footprints in the snow on the back patio. So some have said, if you look at the photos, you'll see there's no snow. There you see snow. I just wanted to point that out. Here's a photo. Look at that great photo. What does that show us? Somebody's clothes on the floor, some boots on the floor. Up here, if you see my mouse, is a little bit of what looks like blood splatter on the door. Tiny bit of blood splatter. If someone in this bed has been murdered, had their face beat in, arterial cuts and wounds, this would be a bloodbath. I don't understand that shit at all. There is the beer pong table with beer, with your red solo cup. You fill me up. It's music night, apparently. I'm just freaking full of it. Anyways, this is the stairway leading up, I think, to the third floor. This is the second floor, I think. This was a beer pong table. And now look at this. And again, internet sleuths break everything down, right? Someone said, how the hell did anybody chase somebody down and pass this table without knocking the table over in the dark at night? Here's the stairwell. To your credit, here is what might be a drop of blood. That might be some blood, maybe. Or it could be a shit stain. I don't know. But maybe that's blood. Maybe. There's a room. Now this I believe is Kaylee Goncalves' room. There's several things I want to point out as we're looking at it. Can I blow this up any bigger for you? A little bit. This I believe is Kaylee Goncalves' room. They said that Kaylee's bed had been turned down as if she or somebody was planning on sleeping in it. This underneath the chair is, I believe, Murphy laying underneath the desk. Police officers said that Murphy hid underneath the desk. He was on the bed and he was laying underneath the desk. That little brown spot, I believe, is Murphy. Right there. I believe that's Murphy. And I don't know if I can blow it any big. Yeah, in fact, it is Murphy. Look, you can see his nose. I don't know if you guys can see it on the screen like I can, but I can see Murphy's nose and his eyes and his tail. That is Murphy underneath the desk of Kaylee's room. Here's some more of the main floor room, I believe. No blood, no tracks of blood. There's the backpack they talk about in some of the police reports that we've seen. There was a backpack found on the floor. There's your backpack, I think. Here's a great image. They said that they noticed when they came up to the house that there was handprints. They said small handprints. Now, I don't know about you, but those look like pretty large handprints to me. But there's two handprints. Like somebody literally went like this and looked in the window. Okay? Did they take latent fingerprints off that? Was it Brian Kohberger? Oh, it wasn't Brian Kohberger. Well, if it's not Brian Kohberger, then we don't need to put it in the police report because we're only going for Brian Kohberger. So whoever the fuck's fingerprints is on the window, do not dust that shit for prints. If it's not, hey, we found these mysterious prints. Oh shit, probably not Kohberger. Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. Yeah, and it could be gloves. Absolutely. It could be gloves. I just caught somebody's comment. Could be gloves. Maybe that's why it's not fingerprints. Maybe it's gloves. There's a murder scene, I believe. Do you see Matt? It can't be a murder scene. It cannot be a murder scene. It cannot be a murder scene. Can it? Where's the blood? Where's the bodies? That can't be. So are they taking a picture of Dylan's room? Is this Dylan's room? Like, I don't even know what that is. This can't be a murder scene, right? Here's a great photo for you. Maybe in this blurred area, maybe there's a body on the floor. Maybe that's a pool of blood. Maybe. We don't know. We're not allowed to see. It's too shocking for our senses. Let's blur something on the table. That's important. Let's blur something on the table. Now, somebody said, well, maybe it's somebody's ID. Maybe it's their driver's license. They don't want you zooming into somebody's driver's license. Maybe it's a crack pipe. Maybe they don't want you to see drug paraphernalia. Whatever the case may be, they don't want us to see that. It's too much for us. Nothing really there. Nothing really there. More photos of the stairs. Utter lack of blood. That was Dylan's room. Okay, thank God. This was, I think someone said this is Dylan's room. It has to be, right? It can't be a crime scene. So thank God. And when I asked it, I mean, there's a reason why I asked. Is that a crime scene? That can't be a crime scene. Look at the enormous amount of blood trail out of this house. There it is, maybe. Is that coffee? Or is that blood? I don't know. That's the enormous blood trail after slashing up 4 human beings with a K-bar knife and maybe beating in their face with some kind of weapon, maybe a different weapon, maybe the same weapon. That's your blood trail. That's pretty good. There's a police officer, I believe, coming up the stairs right before the bathroom. Here you go. Now, again, here's some blood. It looks like blood over here. It looks like maybe some blood here. Is this evidence of arterial spray, as they say. I realize that. And again, I realize that families could be potentially watching this, and this may be difficult. Hopefully at the beginning when I ranted and I told you that you weren't going to see anything horribly graphic, this isn't horribly graphic in my opinion. This is just spatters on a wall, and it's not even that graphic. If we ever get to a point where we're seeing somebody's body, we will not be showing that on a live broadcast. Now, this is the most horrific picture you've got because it looks like you do have a sheet. This again would be, in my theory, what would have to be Ethan in bed in Xana's room. There does appear to be maybe blood on this sheet, a lot of smear on items that look like it's blood over here on the wall, potentially on the walls behind. This is the most potentially graphic scene in the entire set. So I'm sorry I didn't warn you a little bit beforehand. Again, there's nothing you're going to see there. That's too bad. Someone says this is Maddie's room. This is Maddie's room. So that would be Kaylee and Maddie that were in this bed. So the reason why I said I thought it was, and I did, somebody said the pink blanket was Maddie's. So again, I apologize. I'm going to make some mistakes. I'm asking questions. Until I get a little closer, I'm going to make some mistakes. The reason why I thought it was Ethan because of how they described Ethan with a blanket over top of him at some point. And so I was like, well, there's a blanket kind of over top of him. Is that the room? But maybe this is Maddie's room. So I apologize. This is not a huge deep dive. This is a surface look at the photos as I'm seeing them relatively new. So I'm going to make some mistakes. There you go. There's massive amounts of blood spatter on the wall. There's some more crime scene. Now keep in mind, even if this is Maddie's room, did we not get told that Maddie and Kaylee were both killed in this room? Maddie had her face bashed in and her face so mutilated that she was unrecognizable, and officers on scene didn't even know what they were looking at. That's how bad it was. And I hate to say that because I know it's super, super graphic. When officers looked at her, they couldn't even tell what they were looking at. You tell me how you pack two bodies and somebody's so mutilated you can't recognize what you're even looking at in that picture. Am I missing something? Or is this a photo after they cleaned up? And even if it's a photo after they cleaned up, there'd be a hell of a lot more blood, wouldn't there be? So I just once again, every time we get answers, we get more questions. There's a graphic crime scene of nothing. There's that massive amount of blood spatter on the door. Oh wait, I have to zoom that in for you. You see that massive amount of blood spatter on the door? Okay. Anyways, that's basically it. I want to end on two things real quick. I had some information about Bryan Kohberger in solitary confinement and about what wing he's in and some things like that. That's not necessary for this. I wanted to show you one more thing real quick. I'm going to make this super brief because I know you don't want to get pitched money, but I am going to CrimeCon 2025. I got merchandise for myself to wear so I can show off my channel and hopefully talk to some people at CrimeCon. And so I was going to show you, I have merchandise now available. I have a hoodie, I've got a zipper hoodie, and I've got a women's tee that is available on my website to buy pre-order. I'm trying to get some of that paid back now. I had to pay out quite a bit of money out of my own pocket just to get a couple shirts for me because they would only print in a limited run. They're like, you need to buy X number of pieces just to get one for yourself. So I did. I bought it. I put some money out. If you guys can help out and buy some merch and celebrate or support the channel, that'd be amazing. That's at devilsadvocates.info/shop if you want to check out some of the merch. Anyways, so that's that. We'll take that off the screen because, again, I don't want to beg for money and all that shit that is going on. Let's go full screen on this. I want to now look for questions and answers. Woon, by the way, super supporter of the channel, has gifted a bunch of people some memberships. So 5 different people maybe got themselves free memberships. If you have memberships turned on, I should have told you at the beginning of this show, especially on Fridays. It seems like this happens a lot on Fridays. Make sure that you have gift memberships turned on, that you are allowed to get them. It's down in the lower corner if you're on a PC, at least. I don't know about on a phone, but if you're on a PC or a Mac or whatever, if you're on a Windows and a browser, in the lower corner there should be a button that looks like a little dollar sign. If you click on that, it's options to give gifts, which is always appreciated, or to receive gifts so that you can be allowed to receive a gift like a free membership. So make sure that's turned on in the future, and maybe you'll get a chance at a free membership for backstage. And by the way, the gruesome photos will probably, if we had the gruesome photos, will either be member-only content or it'll be in the Discord channel or both. But it's going to probably be something behind a little bit of a paywall, not because you have to pay to see gruesome content, but because I'm trying to restrict families from getting access to the photo. Understand the purpose of it. You are going to claim, some of you, not you, but some of you are going to claim that I'm putting putting it behind a paywall because I'm making money off the murder victims. No, sir. Listen to me clearly. I'm doing it because if you're a family member of these victims, if you had to pay to see what I'm talking about and see the photos, then that's on you. You had to take efforts. I did not put it in your face. You had to take efforts to see it. That's a protection for the family. That's a protection for the innocent people, because I don't want anybody innocent accidentally stumbling across it. I want you to have to put effort in to seeing it. I'm not going to just put it in your face. All right. I'm looking for comments and questions now, and I will finish up here in about 6 minutes. Lee, do you think they were really killed in the house or just placed there? Fuck, man. You know, Robin, that's the thing. I never felt right when people would say, there was two theories that never sat right with me in the early. Other content creators were like, I think this is a giant psyop and nobody actually died. And I thought to myself, I'm not willing to exclude that as a possibility, but it just seems like it's a real stretch. Too many people are involved in this to think that nobody died. But when you look at a crime scene with almost no blood and no bodies, I'm going, are you fucking kidding? Like, how, this is not the crime scene. This is not the crime. It can't be. It can't be. It doesn't make sense. Somebody make it make sense to me. So now I got new questions. Is it even possible? Where they killed somewhere else, and that explains the lack of blood, because the body basically was no longer bleeding. It was just settled or whatever. I'm not super into death, right? So, but it does seem that when your heart's beating, I hate to be graphic, but when your heart's beating, you're pumping out blood. When the heart stops beating, there's not that movement of blood. I would imagine that a person who's been moved from one crime scene after they're already dead probably bleeds less. I don't know. All right, so let's get that off the screen. Lots of people are saying thank you to Woon Woon. Thank you. I'm so glad that Woon Woon gets credit. That costs Woon Woon personal money. It costs, I have other users in here like Crystal White who's donated things. It costs them real money out of their pocket. They're using their own money to buy you a membership. So it's not just a freebie gift. Like they actually paid for you to have that option. So thank you for showing them an appreciation, even if you didn't want it. I you know, like you didn't ask for it. They just gave you a free thing. It's always nice to say, hey, thanks. I appreciate the gesture. It's awesome. Robin, the Discord link's expired. Can somebody grab the new Discord link? And you know what? I'll try to do that for you right now. Invite people, copy link, post it here, and show it there. That should be a brand new link. Once you get the channel linked up, you should be good to go. It expires in 7 days, that link, I think, by default. But as long as you get it done in the 7 days, you'll have access to the server forever. Unless, of course, you're bad and you get kicked out and I kick you off the channel. But that happens very, very, very seldom. Yes. Mishu says, we need to know where the blood coagulated, then we'd know the body position. Yes, 100%. I don't want to get super, super graphic, but when you stop pumping blood, the blood will then pool into the lowest parts of your body. So for example, if your legs are hanging over the bed, your legs will become purplish and discolored as the blood runs into the legs and pools there. So I forgot, lividity refers to the pooling of blood in the body after death, post-mortem, right? Mortem. So I know a little bit about crime scenes. And so yes, how the body was pooled, how the blood is pooled in a body will tell you what position the body was in when the heart stopped beating. At a minimum, the bodies were staged, but where were they killed? Good questions. Where are those latent footprints? I don't know. Either someone's a professional cleaner or Butt herself is the world's biggest liar. Have a great weekend. Wow, this is crazy. They decided to keep everything on the back burner until after the time to appeal is up for the new trial. Pay attention. POV really got them going nuts over there. Yeah. Again, I didn't expect. I honestly did not expect the amount of evidence that's coming out now because the appeal window is still open. I expected exactly what you're hinting at, that we would not see any information, until the appeal window was 100% closed. I'm stunned in a way that we're seeing anything right now. We should know if the bodies were positioned post-mortem by the coagulation and splatter patterns. Yes, that's what I was saying a little bit earlier. And and Fizzy Cake says it should take it takes a few moments for the heart to stop beating, so there should be way more blood since both Kaylee and Ethan both had arterial cuts. 100%. The drops of blood could be from bodies being carried to the rooms. 100%. Lividity was correct. Don't forget your super chat. Did you give me a super chat? What the fuck? Woon? Did I miss and not respect the super chat? Thank you for the super chat. Well, we did that. That wasn't a super chat. You do too much. You do too much. I can't even keep up with you. Super supporter. And he's gonna buy merch. Woon's gonna buy merch. He's gonna sport me in his hometown. So I appreciate everything you do, and I appreciate all the minions. By the way, someone said, you know how like other users have like terms for their group. I'm going to run an idea by you before I head out. I'm going to run an idea. I can't even get Woon's comment off the screen because I can't find it. There you go. I switch it with Woon totally rocks. Someone said you should call the chat the den, like in the Devil's Den, and I was like, that's kind of cute because again, Bertie Bombshells, who's taught me a ton in the YouTube space, he has the hive, and everybody feels like they're a part of something, that they're part of the hive. And I thought to myself, yeah, the Devil's Den is pretty cool. Here's the problem I have: a lot of people are a little cringeworthy on me using devil in the first place, even though they understand intuitively. You understand the devil's advocates means you believe that something happened this way, but let me play devil's advocates with that position and ask you this: if that's how it happened, then how about this? That's what the devil's advocates does. But I've got imps, I've got demons, I've got devils because I'm keeping with the devil theme. I've got a little intro that has a devil. I've gone on with Pete Alturi from Murder Metal Mayhem, and we call it Devil's Mayhem. So do I go all in balls? Oh yeah, I've got the Devil's Docket on Substack as well. The Devil's Docket. Shit, I'm all in. Might as well call it the Devil's Den. But anyways, maybe we'll just call it the Den so it's not as offensive. Anyways, so we may start referring to you in the chat as the Den. We'll see how it takes and whether you guys are cool with that or not. Or the Devil's Playground. Holy shit, what a great one. But again, I don't want to lose the few Christians that are hanging on by a thin thread. I realize Christians aren't super happy with me. I'm vulgar, I'm dirty, I say a lot of F-bombs, and I have this devil theme. But I'm really going to lose it if we call it the Devil's Playground. But that's super cool as well. But Devil's Den is kind of a cool name. We may go with that. I thank you so much for spending your Friday with me. I hope you guys have a great weekend. New things are coming to the channel. I'm going to get more structured. I've got minions that are smacking my ass into shape to become a better channel and a better product. So we're going to work on that. We're going to try to improve again next week. So if you're member only, and if you're one of those people, for example, who just got a free membership, if you're a member only, on Sundays, I tend to do kind of a State of the Union address or a state of the channel, and I'll let you know how things are going to go. I'm going to tell you all about next week and what the schedule looks like going forward for a while as we tweak this show and try to make it a little bit better. For all of you who came here tonight, I really, really appreciate it. I wish we had spent some time at the beginning asking where everybody's from. I love hearing where you guys are from. I love seeing that we're international or even just national. I love seeing people from all over the place tell me where you're at. It's just fun. So hopefully next time I'll be better at saying, hey, where the hell are you guys coming from? I don't want to take too much time on it. And by the way, while I target 1 hour for my rants, that's because I start to lose my voice after an hour. So I want to say that, I don't want to cut the hour short. I guess we don't have to. Ireland, nice. See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Somebody from Ireland. Thank you so much. All right. I really want to shut up because I'm going to start losing my voice. It's time to have a drink. It's time to get into weekend Lee mode. Everybody have a great day. Have a great time. And I'll see you again soon.